Well, hey, what's good, everyone? Welcome to the 5 Plus Football First and Goal podcast. I'm your host, Quaysie Maule. Usually, my partner Brent, but he's going to be joining us very soon. Usually, we start with the all-star teams that we usually do. Right now, we're in Division Two, but instead of doing Division Two, I'm going to start with just going recap from Division Six, 66 men's, and I'm going to go down to it. And then when Brent finally joins us, we're going to go back to that. All right, so guys, we're gonna start with 6B. A lot of things are happening right now. It's kind of crazy how playoffs are gonna, or how playoffs are starting to be like. Just a recap on some of the games that did actually happen. Um, so we're gonna be in week 11 going to week 12, right? So a big game that kind of impressed me is that the Nard Dogs, they lose versus the Cougars. Oh, sorry, wait. The Nard Dogs beat over under. They win 32-20, and then the following week, so they played on the Wednesday. So the day we did the podcast last week, after that day was done, they win their game 32-20, and then they play the following Saturday, and then they lose versus the Cougars 41-18, and they're officially out of out of the playoffs. And the Cougars move into the seventh seed with a 5-4 record
Yeah,
with one game left. So they're pretty much the Nardogs are pretty much officially eliminated. If I did the math right, which I'm pretty sure I did, so they're pretty
yeah, they're
much
done. Well, I mean,
they're
th- they could get in, but I mean, right, because they got 2 games left, right, and they're 1-7. They have 2 points, and the 12 plays big assets have six. They're tied for a couple of teams, but six. I mean, I think the Nardogs could get in, but they need a bunch of teams to lose ahead of them. To have any, it's really slim. I think it's like a 5% chance in Nardogs to get into the playoffs. To be honest.
Yeah, but also I think what I was also looking at is their points against. Right now, their points
Right,
against is
right,
252 compared to Big
right.
Assets, Minutemen. Overachievers is probably one of the teams, but Overachievers is trying to get in as well, right? So
Yeah,
they have to
yeah.
beat out Minutemen and Big Assets. Minutemen's points against is 178, and Big Assets is 186. Nardogs is 252. So the fact that they have already two games, they're going to go way over 252. So even if they finish 3-7 in Big Assets and Minutemen finish 3-7 as well, their points against are going to be way too high to even get a chance to even get close to them. Unless Big Assets and Minutemen lose by 100 the next following week versus both teams, I mean, it's kind of impossible for that to happen.
Yeah.
So that's something I kind of looked at. And then also something that's very interesting now that bet the over, sorry, over underachievers are playing bet the over. So that's going to be a very interesting game
Oh yeah.
coming up this week. Bet the over is 2-6, so they need to win the next two games to try to get into that playoff race. And then overachievers is 3-6, so they're kind of missing that one game to get them back into the green. And then hopefully they have to kind of hope for Minutemen or Big Assets to kind of lose, and they bump them out of that 11th or 12th seed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, yeah, you mentioned over underachievers, bet the over. So that's one of actually 4 games going on tonight, right? In Division 6B. So obviously, right, the points race to get into that final playoff spot, like we said, is tight because as you were saying before, right, Quaysie. I mean, it's right now it's Big Assets who technically have the 12th place, the 12th seed, right? The tie for points with Minutemen. The tied again with over underachievers. The tie with Towers FT. So for those 4 teams, right, Minutemen, Big Assets, over underachievers, and Towers FT, they've all played 9 games, right?
Mm.
So it's pretty much this is it. Like either this week or next week is the final thing for them. Whereas bet the over, right? They have a game in hand. Cafe 67, who's playing tonight against Big Assets, right? In another huge game. Cafe 67 has 3 games in hand, right? They've only played 7 games. So
Yeah,
even if Cafe 67 falls tonight, they still have a chance to get into the playoffs, right? So it's not doom and gloom if they can't knock off the Big Assets here tonight. That's going to be actually at Staddy Bear. And there's also FC Bing against Pass and TDs. I think we talked about that game last week, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a battle first place passing TDs against number 4 FC Bing. That's going to be at Lavelle. I'm going to have a chance to watch that game today when I score keep. So I'm actually looking forward to that one because that should be a really big game. Obviously, both teams have solidified their playoff spot, but again, you're talking about the top 4 teams in this Division 6B going head to head before the playoffs start.
Yeah, exactly. Also, the thing you're also talking about, Cafe 67 now, they have a chance. They kind of do have this chance, but they get into a situation if they lose next game, they go 1-7. They play two more games. Cafe 67's playing big assets, right? So if they end up losing that game, big assets get that they get that extra win. So now they're 4-6. So then it becomes Minutemen are the only team that anyone could kind of catch up to because they're 3-6, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
and then it becomes points against points for. Minutemen right now are 178 points against.
yeah,
Cafe is 169 with 3 games left. Minutemen only have 1 game left. So averagely, like Cafe 6-7 is going to have to make sure if they do lose the next game, it has to be a very low scoring game, a 12-6, something around those lines. They have to make sure Minutemen lose the next game by at least a big score, like a 40 to like 30. Make sure their points against, make sure the team that they're playing against score a lot of points on them. So it is
yeah,
possible,
definitely.
but it's going to be very hard for them to actually make for that to happen. They're going to need a lot of things to align uh, for that to kind of work out.
Listen, the best thing they could do is get a W tonight, and at least put some of those worries aside,
Yeah,
right? I mean, because
exactly.
kind of the
So
business.
that's what I kind of saw as interesting for Division 6B right now, regarding those 4 teams. So pretty much, I feel like all eyes are on those teams to kind of figure out the last kind of seeding, and then we have also the big teams like as we said before. Like FC Bling and passing TDs and stuff like that, or they're kind of just switching spots right now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
how the games are going down. So if there's nothing else, we could go to
yeah.
Division.
So the 6A.
Yeah, okay. 6A. So I have the standings here. So again, um, yeah. So again, for that, a very good football team was not a really very good football team. They dropped their net in the last game, 31-12 versus Red Zone Buzz, and they are also they're also officially eliminated from playoffs. And the reason why I say that is because they only have 1 game left. If they do win the game, they finish 3-7, but their points
Yeah.
against is just way too high. 234 right now. TD Brudas is 160, 168. So they play 2 more games left. I mean, very football team is going to have a low scoring game. If they're going to have to win the next game, and they're going to have a low scoring game, and they have to hope TD Brudas. Actually, no, T-Birds have a tie break, so never mind. No, they're officially out. Very good football team is officially out of playoff
Yeah.
contender.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen them play before. Just too many turnovers from the quarterback position, no matter who's throwing for them, and it's not a recipe for success. Talking about very good
mhm.
football team. They got a lot of veterans on the team. They got some playmakers. Just again, you can't turn over the ball time and time again, right?
Yeah, especially in week 8, week 9, it's like it's the
Yeah,
time, right? And then Red Zone Buzz survives an error week, right? Because they were just 2-4.
yep,
Sorry, they were 3 and oh sorry they were 2-5. So they got a big win against very good football teams. Now they're 3-5, and they're looking for that. They're looking for that that final stretch, kind of you would say, to try to see if they get into to get into a playoff spot. A game I actually want to talk about is Unseen loses a heartbreak versus TD Brothers or Birders.
okay,
I was looking at the play by play, and from what I saw, it seems like Unseen was up 30-18 with about, I would say they were in pro clock. So they're
okay,
up by 12. TD Brothers score a touchdown. They go for onside. They get the onside. They score again in 3 plays. Then
okay.
they get the extra point and they win the game.
Holy
So
moly! Wow.
they
Okay.
scored 12. They scored 13 points in about, I would say, 2 minutes because they scored 13 points in 5 plays. So I would say they were in the pro clock.
Right.
Yeah, and they end up basically knocking out Unseen because Unseen is also officially eliminated playoffs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of sucks for them to actually have a chance if they end up winning that game, which they should have. You're up by 12 points going into the last 2 minutes of the game. Last thing you're thinking is that you're going to lose that game, and it would have helped them. They would have ended up being 3-6, and they would have had a chance this week to take care of business and finish 4-6, and they would have a real good shot to make playoffs. But
Yeah, I
unfortunately,
mean, what I said right now, that listen, that's a heartbreak. You never want to lose that way. I mean, that's again, I always have that conversation. Like, I'd rather get blown out than lose like pretty much last play, right? Kind of what you're talking about, right? Again, I mean, that's the beauty of the game, the beauty of flag football, right? And you're talking about, yeah, I'm looking at it here, right? Um, I'm looking at the play-by-play here. Yeah, so they gave up a 25-yard touchdown. Then yeah, they get the onside, and you're talking about, yeah, so they end up scoring a touchdown on pretty much the last play of the game, and they get the 1 point convo. I mean, listen, that's the beauty of the onside play. I mean, I've made the argument before. I think there should be two onside plays. If you have two timeouts a game, it should be
yeah,
longer than
it's just a
two.
lot.
But
It's a
yeah, I
lot.
know. Well, now, yeah, well now, okay,
How
you know
much?
what? So
Yeah, how much do you want to help someone? Like
I hear
this,
you. I hear you. But I mean, you
people.
save your timeouts. There's a reason for that, right? It's a
Yeah,
game in and of
but
itself. But you're
I
right.
feel like I feel like two timeouts is a lot. Like like that's kind of saying like we're kind of giving a team a chance if they're down by 18 points. You guys
Yeah.
still have a chance to win. And then it
True.
becomes a
True. True.
situation where
True.
like time wise, it's like like if you guys are down by 20, like to a point like pro clock is still kind of running. They kind of now they do 15, right? Or in between, because 15 is a
Yeah.
point where you can't technically come back when you're down by 15 because it's too much. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
score, you get 6 onside kick, you get the ball back, you score another touch and go for 2. It's 14 in total. So like 15 is like the point where that's why the clock still runs in pro clock because it's so hard. It's like it becomes a point where you have to score 3 touchdowns to actually come back. So to
Yeah.
have 2
Yeah.
onside
Yeah.
kicks, it makes the timing wise a bit differently. It just changes a lot of how how the time management is actually going to work.
That's
But
true. That's true.
something also, something also cool I realized there's so many teams right now that have Instagram accounts. Flag football.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I'm like scrolling, doing my thing. I'm just checking. I'm like, oh, you know what team I actually fell on today actually? LVL Jack Boys. So
Okay. Nice.
they have an
Nice. Okay.
Instagram account, and they're pretty funny. Like every single week, so every single they kind of have a recap that they do, but every single week in their stories like that you can kind of click on, they have who
All
they're
right.
playing against. So like they'll have
Okay.
the
Okay.
team, they'll have like for McGill's swim team, they had kind of had an M sign and they had a big cross on it. And they
Okay.
kind of have like their pictures of their guys. They're kind of like memes, like they'll take pictures of their own teammates and like pictures of them like 11 years old, 12 years old, like as a circle. It's pretty cool and stuff. So I saw that today, and I was like, oh, it's pretty interesting. And they do their after game interviews and saying, oh, how do you guys think we did, and then pregame, and oh, how is it going to be next week versus this team and stuff
Right.
like that.
Right.
So
Right.
I find it pretty cool how I'm seeing a lot of teams. There's actually some Division 6 teams too. I don't remember the names and stuff, but there's a lot of teams right now that have Instagram accounts, so it's pretty cool.
So you mentioned like the McGill swim team, right? Well, being one of the teams that was kind of, I guess, being talked about or being mentioned
Mm-hmm.
by LVO Jackboy. So the McGill swim team, there's different guys on that team that play for Freshman XL. They actually have an IG account that I stumbled upon. I think it was either yesterday or
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday,
Yeah, yeah,
yesterday or Monday. Yeah, yeah. Just because
mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah, I
friends with
saw that too.
Keon. Yes, I added that, and you're right. Like it's a lot of funny. It's a lot of funny clips on there. A lot of obviously guys trying to make highlights as well for
Yeah,
themselves, and that's super cool. So listen, from Quaysie and I, like that's awesome. Hope everyone keeps it up. Ladies teams, guys teams, co-ed, FPF junior, like keep it up. That's super awesome.
yeah, it's nice to see. Talking about LAV Jack Boys, they actually took care of business last week
Okay.
as well. They beat the McGill swim team
Yep.
22-13.
Yep.
So they moved back into the first seed, and now they're comfortably going into playoffs next week. Oh, no, sorry, they're going into their last game next week, but they're 8-1, looking to go 9-1. And then
Yeah.
McGill swim team drops to number 6 at 5-2, but they also have 3 games left, so they have some time to kind of make a little push here and try to finish in the top 5, moving on forward. So that's also
Yeah.
something that did happen. And yeah, and then I have this week coming up, right? So we have a couple big games. You have TD Birders versus Angry Birds. So that's
Yep.
actually going to be a big game for TD Birders. Angry Birds not as much; they're 6-2, but TD Birders need this win to kind of secure that playoff spot. And then you have Red Zone Buzz versus Swim Team. That's a big game for Red Zone Buzz. It's kind of like win and you're kind of in, lose and you're kind of out situation
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
And then McGill's swim team is looking to kind of do a little redemption. They just lost versus a very good LV Jack Boys, so they're trying to. I'm sure they're looking for a redemption here in a bounce back game. So two big games there. A lot of playoffs complications as well to see who's going to be in and who's going to get in, who's not going to get in.
I hear you on that. Another game as well. At 90s Classics, well, speaking of Angry Birds, so 90s Classics against the Angry Birds, that's coming up this coming Monday. Yeah, this coming Monday. So that's going to be another game like you talked about, right? So Angry Birds, again, the first match you talked about with TD Brothers, that's going to be Sunday. Then one night later, they play 90s Classics. So 2 games in 2 nights for the Angry Birds. It's going to be a tough task. Again, facing one team who's trying to solidify their playoff spot and another team in 90s Classics, pardon me, who are trying to catch the LVL Jap Boys for first, right? Because right now there's 1 point separating the LVL Jap Boys. They have 16, 90s Classics at 15 for that race for first place in Division 6A.
Very interesting games coming up. So we'll go.
5B?
Yeah, 5B.
Right.
So 5B, I just have the standings here. Yeah, so I have the standings here. So one thing I have to say, sleeping nobody loses versus no punt intended. So they drop their last game of the season and they finish 4-6. Do you think that's going to get them in playoffs, or do you think Sourpuss, Hard Knocks, Chicken Littles are going to have a chance to kind of jump them?
It's gonna be interesting. Well, I know tonight at least one of those teams has a chance to make that jump a little shorter. Is Sourpuss. They're taking on the Diddlers tonight at Stady Bears. So a big 2 points on the line there for Sourpuss, as you talked about, right? Trying to get into the playoffs. I don't know
So
though. Sorry.
yeah, so mathematically, because I did it pretty much all here,
Yeah.
Sourpuss needs to win one of their last 4 games, and they have to make sure in between their 4 games they allow less than 177 points in 4 games.
Okay.
And they have to allow 170. Yeah, sorry, 100 and sorry, my mistake. 167 points. So they have to allow less than 40 points a game, like 46 points a game, which I think they'll be able to do. So I think they're fine with that, but they need a win in their schedule.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be. I mean, listen, they have a couple of chances, right? To at least pick up some points, and again, not let as many in. They have a chance. I mean, it's that many games kind of works against you in the sense that there's a lot of opportunities for other teams to put up points on you, and Sourpuss.
Yeah, but 40,
Yeah.
167 is a lot of points. It's 40. You have to make sure
True,
the team doesn't score
true.
more than 40. 40 times 4 is 160 plus 2, so it's like 42 points a game. Right now, they're averaging each team. They're averaging maybe scored on them. They're averaging one of they're probably one of the best defenses right now. So it's like I'd say
Right,
maybe
right.
less than 25. So I think it's more that they have to get a win. So they play the Diddlers, they play Gooners, they play Dirty Dogs, and then they played Hard Knocks. So they have a pretty busy after tonight. So they play the Diddlers. So if they lose tonight, then they kind of play back in April, the start of April. They play April 6th, 9th, and 10th. So they have a couple games Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday. So they don't really have a break. But in between those games, if they don't pull up the win versus the Diddlers, then they have to put up a win between the other 3 teams.
Yeah,
So
it's not impossible. It's not impossible. It's gonna be easy, no, but I mean, again, it's not impossible to pull that off.
no, exactly. Just need one win, right? So
Yeah,
um, the Diddlers also are one of the worst teams right now. So they're 1-6. So I mean, hopefully they just take care of business and they get away from that. Gooners are 7-0, so I don't think that's going to be a win for them. I think I said Sourpuss as well, so that's going to be a very interesting game. And then I forgot that I think Chicken Little's the other one. So I mean, they play 2 bottom of the teams and 2 high of the teams. So I think they should be able to get in. And then after that, if that does happen, then all they have to worry about is no. Then they're fine because as long as no sleeping nobody, as long as they could pass sleeping nobody for points against, they'll be in for the tiebreak.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Right. Again, they have an opportunity, right? I like the fact that you're talking about, right? They play two of the better teams and two of the not so good teams. It gives you a chance to work on some stuff, but also gives you a chance to like see how good you are. Are you closer to those not so good teams, or can you
Yeah,
consider yourself a contender and be closer to those two better teams? I think it's a good barometer, good test for those
yeah.
guys
Yeah.
coming up
Well,
shortly.
if you're gonna ask for if someone's like, oh, would you like if someone's gonna ask me for to be in a situation, I would want to be in their situation. The fact that we're playing two powerhouse teams, yes, or we're playing two bottom teams. But if we end up beating the two bottom, like so, let's say take care of business with the Diddlers tonight,
Yeah,
it means it kind of says, okay, guys, right now we're in playoffs, but we're kind of in a playoff mood where we're playing versus one of the best teams. Let's see how we could play against them moving forward. And then when we make
exactly.
playoffs, we kind of can see where we are compared to just beating two bottom teams and say, okay, we're in playoffs, but we didn't really play any big competition following the last couple of weeks. Now you kind of get to see where you're at. If you take care of business first, don't get me wrong, you take care of business, you get your win, you realize you're in playoffs, and then you're like, okay, guys, now we're playing good teams. Let's see how we play, and then we get to see where we actually are when playoffs do start.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. 100%. Again, like you said, like playing those top teams right before the playoffs, that's a good warm up, right, for the playoffs. Because in the playoffs, maybe in the first round you might play somebody easy, maybe it's not even guaranteed. But the further you go in the playoffs, the harder the games ideally get, right? So I mean, playing those top teams at this time of the year, it's a good thing. It's a good test.
Yeah, exactly. And as we said, for playoffs for Division 5B, no buys, 16 teams qualified.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm ready to go to 5A.
Actually, with hold on, I just want to check something right here. Yeah, so just sticking with yeah, we talked Sourpuss and Diddler's only game going on tonight. A couple of games going on this weekend as well, but we'll recap those next week. There's actually I'm looking at it right now. There is 4 games going on Saturday and about 2 games going on Sunday. So actually, you know what? A Monday night game, so we won't have a chance. We'll recap it next Wednesday. Demons and Gooners. I'm actually looking forward to that game. It's coming up Monday night at Stady Bear. That should be a really, really tight contest between those teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the top of the top are going to be colliding or clashing, you would say.
Yeah, same thing. Both, either or. All right. So yeah, 5A, man.
Yeah,
Let's
so
check it.
5A. Oh yeah, so 5A. So I skipped. Um, I'm scrambling my words here. So I score kept no flags given versus underdogs.
Okay.
Um, the game. Sorry, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
pull
it
it
was
up here.
Saturday in Broussard.
Yeah, so I score kept that game. Um,
Both games
no
actually.
flags. Yeah, so no flags given. No flags given is the number one team right now. They finished the season 9-1. They take care of business against underdogs 34-18. Right from the start, underdogs couldn't keep up with them. No flags given were able to kind of do whatever they wanted. They got a couple stops on defense when they needed it. Underdogs are kind of struggling. Came a lot of points where they're kind of just making pass. Like they were able to scramble a bit and then throw kind of like a weird cross body, make a catch. The guy kind of avoided two, three
Right.
touchdowns, three tackles, and they kind of scored like that. Again, no flags given doesn't have the best defense. They're 9-1 season. Their season's done now. They're kind of just waiting for playoffs. They have allowed 265 points in 10 games. So that's a lot of points
Yeah.
compared to Old Pats, where Old Pats is allowed. They're 8-1. They do have one game left, but they allowed 181. So I'm assuming the last game they allowed maybe 20, 30 points. They'll finish at 210, let's just say, but that's going to be 50 points less than no flags given. Same thing for Diva Devils. They're probably going to allow near 30 points, so it's near 30 points difference like that.
Hmm.
And then you have a couple other teams that are low scoring points. Do you think that's going to be an issue 4 no flags given. Even if they do score a lot of points, they scored 344, which is a shit ton of points.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a shit ton of points, But do you think that's going to be their kryptonite going into the playoffs? Maybe not the first round, because they should be fine. Again, no buys in Division 5A. Top 16 make it. But do you think going into maybe the semis, the fact that they're allowing too much points, to the point where if you have Tyler Stewart, a very good quarterback, that he's playing well, but he does throw a lot of interceptions, where if he does end up throwing those 1 or 2 interceptions, it comes to a point where their defense is not going to be able to get them that stop, and then their offense is not going to score enough points where they are going to lose that game.
Yeah, well, for two things that you said. First off, I mean, yeah, they do score points. I mean, that at least they can cover themselves there. They're averaging 34 points a game. But yeah, they're giving up 28 a game almost, right? So, I mean, you're giving up 4 touchdowns a game. But the main thing that you talked about, right, is the fact that Tyler Stewart, good quarterback, solid quarterback, like not trying to throw any shit, but he does throw a lot of picks, right? I remember when we were picking All-Stars, for me, that's one of the reasons why I didn't pick him, is because the amount of picks. I've seen him play a lot. He's a good dude and a solid quarterback, but it's just the INTs will kill you, especially in the postseason. As you know, right? Defenses get stingier in the postseason, and the deeper you get in the postseason, right? And one mistake can kind of ruin your whole game. You're looking at, again, the amount of points they've given up. I believe we said 265, right? Looking at all the teams that have let in more than 265, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 of those teams are not in the playoffs right now. I don't think any of them even have a chance of making the postseason. I don't think maybe there's an outside chance for the Brewers underdogs. I haven't looked at the head-to-head, but
yeah. I mean, well, I'll tell you. I have it all right here. I'll let you know.
Anyways, either or, you give up that many points. Yeah.
So too many points.
Yeah, it's too many points, and that's something he's going to have to rectify in the postseason. Again, nothing away from their offense. Again, they've scored 344 points in the regular season. That is an impressive amount. I believe they're the number 1 scoring offense in this division, but you have to. They're one of the worst defenses, right? And you kind of have to find that balance. You have to find that in between. Can you maybe sacrifice a little bit less on offense to get a bit more back on defense? Maybe that's something they need to look at.
Yeah, exactly. You say defense does win championships, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I
score kept Falcons, but yeah.
So I score kept that game. And also the fact that underdogs did lose, their chances are officially done to make playoffs. Their season's not done. You guys do have 1 game left. Go to it. Try to win the extra game. No one likes forfeits in this league. It's not fun, especially to a team where it's a point where a team kind of needs a win, and if you kind of give them a forfeit, they get a free win. You kind of want to make it balanced, right? You want to go out there and be like, let's beat this team, because we did. It has happened during the seasons where one team needs a win and they end up playing versus a bottom team that's kind of their season's over, so they get the forfeit and they get to go in the playoffs where you don't have that I would say worried about not making playoffs because the other team's going to forfeit. So let's hope everyone goes to that. Hopefully they show up to the last game and they kind of whoever they do play against they have a good game with them.
And again, you pay money for this, right? So it doesn't matter what your record is. When you pay your fee, that's for the regular season. It's not for the playoffs. Playoffs are like icing on the cake. They add a bonus.
Yeah.
You play for 10 games, play your 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Playoffs is pretty much, as you said, icing on the cake. It's not, you're not paying for that. It's something the league is providing to you, where you get those extra 2-3 games. Technically, you're not paying for the field because everything's paid for it for that.
Yeah.
Thunder Buddies, big win versus Orange Crush, 19-6. So Thunder Buddies, they kind of get out that situation. They get that 2 points. So now they have 9 because they do have the tie that they have. So they're 4-3-1. So good job for them. Brewers officially eliminated, and at the same time they eliminate Ice Up because they beat them 30-14. So they kind of ruined Ice Up chances, because if Ice Up was able to clutch that win, they would have finished 5-5 with 10 points, so they would have had a better chance to make that playoff. But now they're 4-6, and they can't catch up to anyone because they have too many points against. I believe that's right. Am I crazy? 4-6, 284, 4-5. Actually, no, sorry. They could actually catch up. Actually, I know. I take it back. ISUP does still have a chance to make playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? You're right. You're right.
They
You're
do
right.
have a chance. They do still have a chance to make playoffs, but they need to make sure Vince City, Mixed Mambas, Ball So Hard, X Men, they need to lose the next 2 games for them to have a chance to make playoffs. And to be honest, the only team they actually do have they actually no, because Ball So Hard is going to beat them with points against. They are 177. There's no way they allow 109 points in 2 games. And same thing with X Men freshman XL. They also have
Right.
to allow 122 points. So they need mixed mamas to lose a game, they need mixed mamas to lose the next 2 games, and they need Vice City to lose the next game, and they have to make sure they beat them for points against.
Right.
And
Right.
or make sure that one of those, because if one of those teams do win and they tie up with Vice City, it depends on the tiebreak as well, right? And sometimes it's head to head or it's points against, so that's also going to be an issue. So
So, well, sorry. Just one thing that stood out to me. So the game that you mentioned, right, with Thunder Buddies and Orange Crush. Two things. So it's a 19-6 win for Thunder Buddies. They were down 6-0 at halftime. So props to Thunder Buddies kind of finding their offense and scoring some TDs in the second half. Shout out to Terry Babalis. He's a referee in this league. Obviously, he's the starting quarterback for Thunder Buddies. Threw for 114 yards and 2 TDs. Terry, I mean, I've seen Terry run. Terry, yeah, he has some wheels. It's like watching. It's not like watching Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen run. It's like watching who's a quarterback that has a little bit of could scramble here and there. Like let me say Russell Wilson, but not even him. Thinking about it right here actually. Hold on. Anyways, why I think of it's I want to say it's like Trevor Lawrence. Like he has some speed. He's not going to break any ankles, but he has enough speed to make someone miss here and there. Terry had like 7 carries for like 64 yards and a tutty. Like that's almost 10 yards a carry from Terry. So props to Terry on that, man. That's amazing. Like if you'd have told me heading into that game, a big reason why Thunder Buddies are going to get the W is because of Terry's legs. I would have said, I don't know about that. Not to say he's slow. He's not slow, but just you don't picture him as a guy who's going to be running like 7 times a game and getting almost 70 yards on the ground. So props to
no,
him.
you're exactly right.
Yeah, props to him and coming up huge in the W.
That's his career high too this season.
Yeah.
That's the most rushing attempts he's done this season. Usually he's averaging about 3 or 4.
Yeah, exactly.
4, 3. I would say 3.5. So basically 4 runs per game, and he did 7. So he almost doubled it, and he also doubled the yards too, and he got that touchdown too. So he for sure put the team on his back to get himself that win and to get his team closer to make sure they secure a spot into the playoffs.
Yeah. So the LS Tigers, the only winless team. I mean, their last chance is this Sunday. They're taking on Vice City. So I mean, we're pulling for you, LS Tigers. I mean, they're coming off of a loss last Sunday, big one, 44-12 to the Defeated Devils. I mean, that sucks because they've been playing actually not bad, the LS Tigers of late, right? So I mean, 2 out of the last 3 games comes down to 1 or 2 possessions, right? They lost to Freshman XL by 6 points. They lost to Mixed Mambas by 10 2 weeks before that, right? So I mean, Vice City. I mean, they're definitely a better team than LS Tigers. But hey, listen, we're pulling for you guys. Hopefully, you can get that W and get after Schneid. It's gonna be a tough one though. This Sunday.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I actually when I first saw their name, LS Tigers, so when we first kind of did the first couple weeks here, right? I kind of figured a name LS Tigers, the uniform purple,
Yeah,
purple gold. I would assume you guys wouldn't be 0-9, But sometimes one thing I do have to say, I love to see it, right? That some teams when they join this division and they join this league, right? So some of their guys are new, some of the guys are not new. They have a couple guys that they have to take 2-3 guys that are new at 55 ratings. So actually, no, they have 2 guys that are new, but some are new. You have the younger guys with that. Sometimes you come into a division, you think it's gonna be a walk in the park. We're gonna win games here, and then it's a reality check. Not saying you guys are good enough, but sometimes you kind of have to realize that you kind of have to change the play calling because right now this is Division 5A, right? So the fact if you go 0-10 in Division 5A, you gotta have to make some changes because it's like it's not don't get me wrong, the competition sometimes is hard, but I find sometimes when that happens, it's a reality check. So you kind of get together, you kind of change your formations, you kind of change your maybe you have to change your quarterback, you have to change your defensive schemes like that. But it's like sometimes it's a blessing in disguise, because like I don't see them. Let's say they do play next season, I don't see them going 0-10 again if they do go 0-10. If they do,
exactly,
you know?
exactly,
So,
exactly.
so there's always that, you don't see teams going back to back 0-10 the previous years. So a little bit. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. Something I also did look at was pump and dump. I kind of want to pull it up here. Standing. Pump versus. Why do I have this here? So pump and dump. For some reason, I have them highlighted here. So that means they played. They played deep shots. They beat deep shots 31-30, and I believe they eliminated deep shots.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 3-6 for deep shots. So they eliminated deep shots because deep shots. Yeah, they did eliminate. Yeah, that's exactly why I had it here. So they eliminated deep shots for playoffs. That's just something to say. Also, I kind of want to give a shout out to Pump and Dump as well. So as many of you guys know, we do the podcast every single week, and we have our All Star segment that we do. So Pump and Dump has a receiver. His name is Benjamin Carlisa.
I think it's Carlisle.
I believe his name.
I think it's
Yeah.
pronounced
Okay.
Carlisle. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So he wasn't one of our all stars.
Yeah.
he, he, he wasn't one of our all stars. Okay, so I'm reading the comments, and we also got a DM as well on Instagram saying, "How did you guys leave this guy out?" So I'm kind of like freaking out. I'm like, "Yo, how did we leave a guy like this out?" I'm looking at his stats right now: 710 yards, 22 TDs. I think on defense he has a couple stats too. And I'm like, "How is that possible?" So this is why we left him out, and this is why I wanted to make. I was gonna rate something to the comments, but I'd rather just say it here and tell them.
I say it right here. Say it right here, my friend. Say it right here.
If you want to see the reason why we did it, you have to tune in here. So we did the podcast on March 3rd, I want to say. So he at that point he didn't have 22 touchdowns. Of course, he didn't have 710 yards. He was in the bottom of the pack. I think he had maybe 10 touchdowns, and he had actually I can make the official numbers.
Yeah, 10. He had 10. He had 10.
He didn't have the stats that he had. He was in between everybody else. So he was kind of like he wasn't the top, he wasn't at the bottom, but he was in the middle. Same thing for receiving yards. He wasn't at the top. He wasn't the thing. And same thing for defense. He's not a defensive player. He's one way, right? Yeah. So
he has
there's
a couple
not really
picks.
much.
He has I think you're right. No, he has 4 picks. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he got those after. Or maybe I'm crazy.
He got when we did the podcast, he had 2, and then since then he had 2 more. But I mean, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, he had 2. Yeah. So his stats are from March 1st, I believe. That's where we cut him at. So he didn't have 3, 6, 9 extra touchdowns from what he had before. So he had, I think he believed he had 13 touchdowns, or maybe I'm even wrong. It might have been an extra week. So maybe we had to eliminate 3, 6, 10, 12 touchdowns. So he would actually have 10 touchdowns. All I know is that he was in the middle of the pack because of that. So that's the reason why he wasn't our all-stars. As you guys know, that the division is big. If we don't personally know you, it's kind of hard for you to be an all-star in our eyes. We kind of go by stats or if we've seen the person. But this is his second season playing. So how I saw it and how me and Brent basically saw, I'm going to speak for both of us. We didn't see him as the player that he is, because right now you can see he's probably one of the top receivers right now. So that's kind of like on us as well. But also the fact that he wasn't top of the receivers where he was bumped out by a lot by the guys that we did take. So that's the reason why you're not all-star.
Okay, so I'm gonna agree with everything you just said. Obviously, and I'm not gonna argue because what you're saying is 100% right. I will say I had him on my list of players I was considering. Because the reason why it takes us long to do the All Stars is because obviously it's only the two of us, so it's not going to take forever. But there's a lot of guys. Even last week when we were talking about Division Three, there was a couple guys that was on the fence about. I ended up picking some guys over some guys. I could say that Ben Carlisle was definitely on my list of players, but as you said, Quaysie, I mean, at the time he had about 10 touchdowns. I'm trying to find actually the team that I picked. I mean, there's so many teams that we picked and so many names to
Yeah.
go through.
Well,
I don't
I'm
have
pretty sure I had him on my list too. To be honest
yeah,
with you.
I remember 100%. I'm not lying. I remember he was definitely on my list. I didn't pick him, which is on me. It's like you're saying it's on you. But again, you guys have to remember at home it's not personal. A B it's only 8 players, right? It's not like we're saying okay we're gonna pick the top 10 or top 20 players, per team, right? It's not he has 20 and I have 20, then we have 40 players. No, it's literally the top 8. There's 16 players, right? We're actually gonna make a change to that going forward, but that'll be for later in the show. But again, if we didn't pick you, it's not because we don't like you. It's not because we don't think you're good. It's just, yeah, like Quincy said, we've been in the league for a while. So there's some guys we know. There's some ladies we know. There's some guys we know. As scorekeepers, we go from field to field watching different players. So sometimes someone new will catch our attention. But I'll be honest with you, looking at his team, what team does he play on again? Sorry, I should know this now, but Ben Carlisle plays for
Pump and dump.
Pump and Dump. I haven't seen him play at all this season. I'm not gonna lie to you,
Okay.
and I score keep 2 to 3 times a week. I haven't seen him, so that's no one's fault. I mean, I'm not going to every single field to watch every single game. It is what it is. Unfortunately, we have other jobs and other things to do. But I mean, again, props to you, Ben, for the numbers you're putting up, and you're proving us wrong, which is also the point, right? We told you before every All Star team that we pick, if we don't pick you, prove us wrong, and that's what you've done, Ben. So congrats to you. And if we revisit this before the end of the season, maybe we'll have an all star, a guy or two or a lady or two that we left off that we might want to add on or something later on. I'm pretty sure Ben Carlisle will be one of those guys that
Yeah,
we
exactly.
look at
Yeah,
on at the end.
but I'll just add on before we get into Division 4A. Like, prove us wrong. Like that's why playoffs are there. And sometimes use the motivation. All right, these guys don't think I'm All Star. Like, make it known to that you're All Star. Win a championship. So then we're like, oh, and then trust me, if you win a championship and you're like that, we'll never not pick you. Or we'll always remember who you are. I just found it super funny how I'm reading the comments and I'm like, who is this guy? And I look and I go, wait a second here.
And,
But
and, and you know what? Let me give you some advice. Don't do the opposite where you talk trash to me and then lose the game. Because I'm not going to mention a name. I had someone do that to me 2 weeks ago. I was scorekeeping in Laval. Oh, you guys didn't pick me as an all star. And the articles, I don't see my name in the articles. I'm like, I don't write for division. I write for Division Two, but whatever. That's neither here or there. Oh, you should have picked me as an all star. Watch, we're going to win the game. And then that team proceeded to lose the game pretty much. One of
yeah,
the
there you
last
go.
plays of the game. So don't talk trash if you or your team can't back it up, because we
Exactly.
will call you out. I'm not gonna be mean and call the guy out because he's had some tough losses the last couple of weeks with his team. But just
Okay.
beware, it's a slippery slope. If you start talking
Yeah.
trash to us,
Yeah, exactly. We're
yeah.
gonna talk shit. Make sure you back it up because we will talk. We will say something about it. We will.
Because I called out AJ last week on when we did part 2. We did the ladies and co-ed and 5v5. He's playing with you actually. Yeah, it was last Wednesday. So
Yeah.
you were scorekeeping the game in Lavelle, and AJ was talking trash to Quaysie and I about how we can't pick all star teams. By the way, AJ, I would love to see you come on the show and do the same. But whatever. You're more than welcome, AJ, to come onto the show, brother, anytime you want. Yeah, he's lucky he won that game because I would have been running my mouth ragging on him if you guys had lost. Trust me, AJ knows I have a big mouth. Trust me, AJ, you're lucky, bud. You're lucky you guys got that W. Anyways, we continue with the rest of the podcast here.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to four B.
Yes, sir.
4B. Here we are. So Vin Diesel. They're back. Like they never
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
They get a big win, 42-24. So like it's like they never lost. It's like they never left. I think we talked about it many times. I don't know how you guys are in division. You guys are in Division 4B. 327 points, 430 against. They lead most points. They lead points for. They lead points against. They lead points. They lead. They have the most points. I'm sure they're going to go undefeated. If they don't win Division 4B, how bad is that going to look for them?
The Chumps. If they don't win it, the Chumps. Yeah, I said it. Chumps. Capital CHUMPS. Chumps. First of all, they have no business being in 4B, and I've said this. You just said it a couple seconds ago. I'm saying it again, and when I see those guys, I say it to them as well. Especially the captain of the team. Uh, they're good guys. Can't say they're not. They're good guys. I'm not trying to say they're dicks or anything, but they shouldn't be in 4B. Credit to them on having playing the ratings cap to a T. They're in 4B enjoying now because this is the last time ever they'll be in Division 4 for anything. But yeah, they should be winning this division. No disrespect to like the Black Vipers, the Hooligans, Team Sexy, a lot of other good teams in this division. But yeah, Win Diesel should be the class of this division, and so far they are. Right, they're 8-0.
Mm-hmm.
You said they have a couple weeks off, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I had a month off.
They finish off with Cast at 12, who's actually in action tonight. Cast at 12. Actually, Cast at 12 is playing Coconuts tonight at Statty Bread. That should be a pretty good game actually between two teams who are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then when Diesel finishes with 2 Army, I fully expect them to come out and maybe not blow out those teams, but I expect them to get 2 Ws to finish 10-0. But I don't really care what happens in the regular season with these guys. I care about the postseason.
Yeah.
Can they? It's a cocky team. They're not dicks, but they're a cocky team.
Yeah,
so let's see.
What
they talk a lot of trash.
So what do you think is worse? Okay, so someone's gonna ask you: do you think it's worse? What do you think is better? Like if you're gonna have to basically pick or choose. So when Diesel losing the championship, or like what's the biggest accomplishment of when Diesel losing, or the team beating them, or the team that they lost against winning?
Good question. I mean, it depends on who it is, right? Because I mean, you could have some upsets. I mean, look, we have March Madness going on right now, right?
Yeah.
Let's go Blue Devils. I mean, it could be, let's say, I don't know.
So let's just say, let's just say they play Team Sexy in the finals, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the talk is more going to be, wow, Team Sexy beat Win Diesel, like
right.
Or is going to be, wow, how did Win Diesel not win a championship?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B. I know that sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but you look at Team Sexy right now. Team Sexy is 7-1, right? They have a pretty solid squad, a lot of veterans, a lot of playmakers on their team actually. They haven't met in the regular season though, so maybe the story would be Team Sexy. I still think though that with respect to Win Diesel, the story should be more about them because again, they're in 4B. They got into 4B. That's not their fault that they were able to get into 4B, right? Going undefeated and winning a championship, I think, should be a bigger story. Let me ask you this. Do you think it's a bigger story that the Patriots lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl? When the Patriots were undefeated going for that path to perfection? Or was the bigger story the Giants pulling off the upset? You can make the argument that it's 50-50.
The Giants pulling up the upset 100%. The only reason why I say that is, right, because the Giants, that year, the Giants wasn't even supposed to make the playoffs.
That's very true. That's very true. But Team Sexy is a team that they're the 3rd seed, right? If I'm not mistaken, they should be in the playoffs. So, and that's my point. It's not like it's a bottom of the barrel, like a team that just snuck into the playoffs, knocking them out, right? It's not like
well, just
16 like, knocking out of 1.
Yeah, exactly. But me like the storyline, right? So if you were gonna write an article, are you opening up? Wow, Team Sexy defeats Win Diesel? Or are you opening up? When Diesel collapses and they lose championship game, like which story?
I've done those articles before, man. Again, it depends on how the game goes, right? Let's say it's a calamity of errors, and when Diesel shoots themselves in the foot and they get beat by at least 2 touchdowns. You start off with Team Sexy wins, but then you go right away into how Team Sexy wins, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. With Win Diesel, again, undefeated is undefeated. It doesn't matter what your schedule is. If you could beat everybody, I think that's the more impressive feat. Not to say one championship's not equal than the other. The championship's a championship. As a buddy of mine says, the flags fly forever. Fortunately, there's no flags in FPF. Well, I mean, yeah, there is actually. There's a banner, but whatever. It's not attached to a stadium where it's flying in the air for people to see, right? And they drive past Brassard or Lavelle, whatever. But I think I would say the undefeated season is a bit more impressive than the upset victory, but again, it depends on who. It depends on who and depends on how the game is won or lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Okay, to just kind of jump back in a bit into 4B, I think that's enough talk about Win Diesel. So I have Les Tenders. Yep. They win a big game to lose a big game. So they beat Les They beat Notorious
Notorious
Wales
Wales. Yep.
31-27. So they get one shot closer to make playoffs, and then they drop the ball versus Game of Thrones 33-12. And then now they're officially out of playoffs. So they get the
Yeah.
big win versus Notorious Wales, and then they drop a game where they play Game of Thrones, where Game of Thrones was 1-7 going into that game. So unfortunately for them, losing that game, because that could have been a very sick playoff push for them if they did take care of business and they did win that game. And now they're 3-6, 4-6 is not going to get them into the playoffs.
But if they're able to knock off so the Thunders can't pronounce that properly. Looking at, I mean, so they do have the win over Notorious Wales, like you just said. So I mean, right now they're 2 points back in Notorious Wales. If the Thunders, if they could beat Tua Army, who they're playing to finish off the regular season, and I believe in 2 weeks, I think they actually might get in because right now they're behind Tua Army for 13th, so they would
Yeah, but
leapfrog for 13th. But
it's gonna be points against.
okay,
It's
yeah,
not gonna
that's
be.
true. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right.
That's what people have to realize. It's the points against that kills you, right? Because they'll have the tiebreak versus Notorious Wales head to head, but
Yeah.
I don't see there being just two teams that are going to finish 4-6, and Notorious Wales do end
The,
up losing. So
so
it goes. Sorry, go.
no, no, I was saying, I think well the thing that the Thunderers would need to have happen, right? Because you're absolutely right about the points against. What the Thunderers would need to have happen is they would need Notorious Wales to not only lose to Chattagee Community College,
Get blown
but
out.
then right now, which might not happen, 0-9 right now. But right now, they would also then need to. So right now, if you're looking at the point difference, yeah, they would have to. Yeah, it's a lot of points to catch up on. It's almost it's a 29-point difference between Notorious Wales and the Thunderers.
Yeah, and
I mean,
Notorious
it
Wales.
could happen. I'm gonna hold my breath on it, but
Yeah, and then they play Chattagee Community College. I mean, I don't think they're
yeah.
going to score that many points on them if they do, and I don't think they're going to lose that game. So that's why I kind of just
Well,
put it in my own kind of
right.
word.
No, you're not wrong. But I will say, Chattagee Community College, they almost knocked off Tua Army
Yeah,
the
yeah,
last
that's
Sunday,
that's
right?
that is true. That is true. I just don't think they're gonna beat them by that many points if they
Right.
do
Right.
beat them.
That's
That's
fair. That's fair.
that's like,
That's fair.
so also something to kind of look at. So I kind of highlighted three teams. I highlighted Mofos, Coconuts, and
Yep.
Two Army. So those are the three teams I kind of highlighted, and the only reason why I did those because I'm like I feel like those are the teams that are going to be battling for a playoff spot. A playoff spot. That's because Coconuts are 4-4, but they could get caught up with Two
Yeah.
Army. They could get caught up by Two Army and Mofos. So looking forward to it. Mofos are playing Slippery Slopes and they're playing Raw Sauce. So they're playing Raw
Right.
Sauce 2.0 and they're playing Slippery Slopes. So they're playing two top teams. So for them, it's not going to be an easy kick in the park. But if they end up doing those two games, they do have a tie. So they do have a good chance to jumping a team like Coconuts are Notorious Wales. So that's are also cast at 12, but we'll talk about them soon. Also with their last three games, and then you have Coconuts that play Black Vipers and cast at 12. So cast at 12 could be a big game depending how
Yeah.
Mofos whatever they do. Um, and then you have Tool Army that plays Wind Diesel, which is going to be a very hard game for them to kind of to kind of win. And then they play Les Tonders. So again, I highlighted those three teams because I think it's going to be between those three teams who makes the playoffs and who doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I mean, like the Mofos, like you said, I mean they have 2 games remaining. I'm even looking a little further down that list. Right? Like I'm looking at like the Akatsuki, right, and the Parlay Tilters. Right now, both teams have 4 points, so they're 4 points behind Coconuts, who had that 12th and final playoff spot with 8 points. But Parlay Tilters and Akatsuki, they have 3 games remaining. Right, they have 1 game in hand on both teams have 1 game in hand on the Coconuts. So I'm thinking maybe if those two teams could maybe put some wins together. Right? Akatsuki, they're playing West Island Boys, Raw Sauce 2.0, and Cast at 12. And I'm looking at the Parlay Tilters here again with 7 games remaining as well. Like they're in action against Game Throws this Saturday. Then they're off until April 6th, right? So next Sunday against the Hooligans, and then the Tuesday after that against Snowden Deli Deegans. I mean, they're definitely not easy. Definitely not easy for either team, for Parlay Tilters or Akatsuki. But again, the games in hand on everybody else obviously is going to play in their favor.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, the reason why I highlighted the three teams that I did is no disrespect for Parlay Titlers and Zach Kazuki. I just figured for them to have, they're not going to get in unless they win three games in a row. And
Yeah,
looking at their schedule, I didn't see them winning three. I would see them maybe winning two, maybe winning one. So I would see them going 4-6, and their points against is going to be way too high because
true.
they're right now they're tied with Coconuts, Repairs, Wales, and both of these teams have either two games behind them or are three games behind them. So
Right,
I think
right, right.
you're going to allow. You're already averaging so much points against Lao. I mean, I figured your points against is just going to be too high for you to actually just make that push.
No, definitely. I mean, the only thing I would say, the only retort I could have against that is this is that time of year, right? And I think you know what I'm talking about. This is that time of year where, yeah, we need to get into the playoffs. We have a little flexibility with the cap. Let's see if we can get someone,
Yeah,
either,
that's true. You're right. You're
like
right.
higher division guy or someone even a
Yeah,
lower division person that's underrated. See what we can do.
yeah.
I'm
But
just saying it's happened before.
I feel like you see that in like Division Three, Division Two, Division One. I don't think you see it as Division Four, unless you get
Yeah, I
like a
guess
ring,
we do that.
a
I
guy
guess
like
we
a
do
buddy that used to play football, and he's like, "Yo, bro, come play with the boys, and we'll have some beers after." You know, you kind of
that.
wing wing like,
100%.
let's get
I'm
that
just
ring.
saying. So I played with Gino DeFazio for a bunch of years, and he's Captain Ringer for
Yeah,
for for
yeah,
for men, for co-ed, for ladies, for FPF Junior. He'll bring in ringers. He'll deny that, of
yeah.
course, but we all know
That's
that's true. Yeah.
that's Gino. Gino's he's a veteran for that. You know, he's the guy. If you guys want someone, you know, you guys have to make playoffs. You need to make some moves. You guys know who to contact.
20 guys on a roster. It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll find a spot for everybody. Yeah. Good
Yeah, he
times.
finds a guy too from he's like, yeah, that guy has been there for five. He's been there for 5 games. And I go, Gino, that guy he's new. I don't know who
Never
that
seen a
is.
guy in
Yeah,
my life. Yeah, exactly.
he's been every game. What are you talking about?
You get the call. You get the call from Rob. So has this guy really played on your team for that long? No, no, he
Yeah,
hasn't.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gino was saying that there's you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You have Gino messaging you.
I've never met anybody I love Gino. I'm probably going to see him tonight at Lavelle. I've never seen a guy in my life, and I love Gino. I played with him for tons of years. His daughter's awesome, Maya. I've never seen a dude that this A lies so much and B is convinced of his own lies when it comes to that.
But the thing is, if you're gonna lie about something, you have to be convincing. Or who's gonna believe you? You need to believe that it's a lie.
And
You have to
he
say
believes it's
something.
the truth.
Yeah, you have to say something where it comes to point like, yeah, that guy's been here for 5 games, and then you have to be like, was he actually here for 5 games, or am I lying to myself? Like, it has to be a lie to yourself where you
Exactly.
believe, you know. So,
He's on board with
but
that.
yeah. All right, let's move on to Division 4A.
All right.
4A, Trap Stars versus Nice Team. Was it what the Trap Stars versus? Oh, sorry, Trap Stars versus Goons. I witnessed that
Yeah.
game in Brossard.
Mm-hmm.
Trap Stars get an impressive win, 39-38. Goons is a type of team, definition of Goons. Um, they're a bunch of athletic guys. There are guys I think they just they're kind of friends that played each other. You have a couple guys that played for University of Concordia. I think a couple guys from John Abbott as well. You know, so they're a very aggressive team. A lot of tackle background, and then Trap Stars is kind of like the opposite. You know, like Trap
Good
Stars is
opposite.
it's don't get me wrong, it's guys that did play football. I think they play at Selling House. I want to
Selling
say a
house.
lot of
Yeah,
these
yeah,
guys.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
So it's kind of like a yin and a yang. You know, you get you gotta have opposite. And I'm not saying, and I'm also not saying like black and white because the Goons have a lot of white players as well. I'm just saying the way the attitude is, you know, and the way. But Trap Stars, they held it down. They talked their shit. They said what they had to say. They had a couple. They had a couple plays. They had their boys talking. They had their guys back, and they get an impressive win, 39-38 against them. So I was to be honest with you, when the game was coming in, I figured Goons was going to handle business, but they didn't. You had
Right.
Trap Stars kind of just like every time Goons did something, Trap Stars just did it better. And at the end of the day, it came to a couple stops here and there, and Trap Stars kind of put the veteran into flag because it's a team that they've been playing with each other for a while now. They
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just used that for time management, and they just came out with the win.
So it's funny. It's funny. One of the first things you said, trying to make it black and white is hilarious because like I played against Trap Stars a bunch of times. Obviously, Dylan Garber, Ryan, Cooper, all those cats. I don't think I've ever seen a brother play on that team in my life. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe one year, I think
No,
I
no,
saw
no.
them.
They probably never had a black person on that team.
I could be wrong. I'm thinking it was one year, maybe there was, and I remember being kind of there was. Actually, I was shocked. It's like, oh wow, okay. And
Yeah,
not to throw any shade on the trap, I'm not calling them racist by any means at all. It's just there's certain teams who you see and it's like, okay, all right. And there's certain teams who are like, I've never seen a black guy, or I've never seen a white guy, or I've never seen like an
yeah,
Asian guy. It's just hilarious. Like being
yeah.
around the league for as long as we have, we see some of that. And
Mhm.
he talked about obviously Sound House. Listen, Sound House football. Listen, football is football. At the end of the day, what I consider Sound House, I have friends that have kids at Sound House, so would I consider that like the upper echelon of football, Otaku? No, I wouldn't. But again, football is football. You got to play somewhere, right? So props to
Mhm.
these guys. They came, I guess, through that system. I know Will played. I know he was on the U of M roster. I know he never played for U of M, but he was on the roster. I think he
No,
might have played John
he was
Abbott.
there for like spring camp
Yeah.
or
So yeah,
maybe,
yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
he did a camp there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the other thing they talk about goons. Yeah, like obviously some of the guys have a big tackle background. Oriola Poirier, I've seen him play before. I was Justin Gauthier, phenomenal player. Anyways, yeah, speaking to your point, a big win though by the Trap Stars, right? And another edgier seat thriller that went down to the wire. So props to Trap Stars on getting the W in that game. So now like if you look at like the rest of the schedule, right? So like so I'm just waiting for it to load on my screen here. Like looking at tonight, Trap Stars are back in action, right? They're at Statty Bird, they're taking on Mengoose. You have the Penetrators against Compal. I'm actually looking forward to that Penetrators Compal game. I think that might be a little bit underrated in terms of a game. Compal actually coming off a big win over Mengoose last week, 39-23. So obviously, Compal looking to keep their winning ways alive tonight against the Penetrators.
Mhm. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be interesting. I think Trapstar. You said Kampal, yeah, yeah. Kampal.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, so they beat the process actually as well. 2 weeks ago. So yeah, two big wins actually in a row for Kung Pao. I remember talking in one of the previous podcasts. They lost the balls deep. I did that game in Saint Laurent, one of those makeup games. But in sense, and again, they beat the process 42-24. And then, like I said, they're coming off a big win 39-23 over Mengoose last Sunday. So
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Heading towards the
Kampal's very
playoffs, Kung Pao. Yeah.
veteran team as well, right? You have Sebastian Deschamps, and then you have Jean Fossis Marquis.
Yeah,
Two
Jefferson Markey.
veteran,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, two veteran guys. I used to play. They play for not Terror. I don't want to say Terror Squad. I want to say what's their team they used to call
They had
themselves.
played for Terror Squad before. At least
Yeah,
Marquis
but they
has, I
also
think.
they also have their own team as well that they play for.
Right,
God Skills,
right.
God Skills,
Yeah,
God Skills.
there you go. There you go. Yeah,
Skills,
exactly.
yeah. Or the orange is kind of was coming off, but yeah,
Yeah.
they have a veteran like they've played a while, right? So the fact that they're in 4A, I don't see them. The fact that they're 6-2, I feel like it should be good for them. They also have a couple like most of their team is guys that played. I think they had one. I'm not sure. It's full. It's tackle background and our deep flag background as well. I know they have some. They have a couple guys that I haven't seen before, but half of their team is guys that play tackle or just have a flag background or just flag coaching. So
Yeah.
um,
So so actually we'll come out. So this Sunday they're taking on the Trap Stars. That should be a really big game. Sunday that's going to be in Laval, and even this Saturday. So I don't know if you have a chance to maybe check out that game. It'll be where you're scorekeeping in Bessard. Balls Deep taking on Speed Academy. So that's going to be a battle between number 2 Balls Deep, number 3 Speed Academy. That's going to be a huge game because right now
yeah,
those two teams have 14 points. They're tied with the Penetrators, who have 14 points for in first right now in the division, right? So the winner of that game will have sole possession of first place, depending what the Penetrators do, obviously, in their game tonight against Kung Pao. It's going to be
yeah,
huge.
it's gonna be good. To me, I'm surprised gonna be Jessica versus Justin there for Balls Deep versus Speed Academy. Should be rushing him. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
let's see if
yeah.
she's able to contain him. Something to also look at: Ball Don't Lie loses to what did I put Rice? Ball Don't Lie loses to Rico Riders. That's what I bet. Rico
Yep. Yep.
Riders. So their playoff chances are pretty much their playoff chances are done. Right
Yeah.
now they're 2-6. They have 2 games left, but their points against is way too high for them to kind of get into a spot, and also
Yeah.
they need a lot of teams to lose for them to even get a chance. And then Rico Riders kind of survive. Actually, sorry, Rico Riders don't even survive as well because they're 3-6. So even if they win their next game, they finish 4-6, but they allowed 307 points. So that's way too many points on a tiebreak versus
Oh yeah.
Voodoo, versus Sun and Guns, versus Nighthawks, versus Bandits, versus Trap Stars. Any of those teams that they end up for some reason tying, their points against is way too high in general. So both of their
Yeah.
teams are pretty much out for playoffs.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I mean, looking at it here, just at the bottom of the standings. So yeah, Sun and Guns a big 38-16 win over Rico Riders last Saturday. So Rico Riders getting a big win, but also losing one as well. So Sun and Guns right now they sit at 13th, right? They're tied points wise with Voodoo, Nighthawks, Bandits, and Trap Stars. But Sun and Guns right now again, like I said, they're taking on the Killer Rays. So Killer Rays right now is looking at the standings. Killer Rays are in eighth, right? So if Sun and Guns, pardon me, can pull off the upset, that's huge because then they'll be able to get to 10 points. They can finish as high as ninth.
Yeah,
And
and
actually no, eighth actually eighth. If they beat the Killer Rays, they'll have the head-to-head tiebreaker. They can finish as high as eighth. But right now they're
yeah,
13th, right?
yeah, definitely something they want because their points against 347 is definitely not going to be helping them with
No,
any tiebreakers.
no. And even sort of control. So Mengoose, like I said, they're playing Trap Stars tonight, right? So Mengoose right now, they're out of the playoffs looking in, but they have 2 games remaining, right? So tonight
Mm.
against Trap Stars, a big game, and then they finish off against a really tough matchup with Les Petits Carrots. That's going to be next Sunday, right? Le Petit Carrots, they're coming off of a huge win over Sleeping All Stars. I know we were talking last week, right? They fell to Petit Carrots, they fell to Voodoo. Bit of a surprise, they're 31-18, but then they're able to bounce back and beat the Sleeping All Stars 36-21. So that's going to be an interesting game between, again, 2 teams that are hungry for the W. And let's say Mangoose, if they want to get into the playoffs, right? 2 games in hand, they're 2 points out, sorry, 1 point out. This is a chance. They got to at least win one of those remaining 2 games to get into the dance.
Yeah, yeah. Voodoo 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Voodoo's on the 4-game win streak, right? Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah.
saying. March 16th, 4-game win streak. They haven't played for 15 days. They come back in action on Monday, and they play the Goon. So hopefully they could win that game because if they win that game, it means they won 5 in a row because they started 0-4, 0-5 actually. Sorry. So they play again. They play a very aggressive Goons team. So hopefully Frank the quarterback could build up some plays and just try to see what works and kind of get the streak continuing.
And man, Frank K. My was pulling for Frank. He's a good dude. Good guy.
Uh, and then you have the process versus Ball Don't Lie, but again, both these teams are kind of in the situation. The process, they do win. They go 4-6. Again, their points against is kind of high, but again, it's going to be again Voodoo. It's going to be a lot of games this week. It's going to be easier to determine what's going on, but it's going to be very interesting.
Definitely,
Okay,
definitely.
so Division 3. So Division 3, I'm just gonna go on to say it. I want to give a shout out to Idaho, the Pimps. Congratulations on the 10-0 season. You guys scored 412 points in the season. That's averaging 40 points, 41 points a game, which is insane. I just want to point that out here. You guys allowed 254, but when your team scores a lot of touchdowns, it makes sense that teams are going to score touchdowns. It gives them more opportunities to score on you. The 412 points is very impressive. A 10-0 season as well is very impressive. So I just want to give a shout out to them. They played their last game of the season versus Blue Chips. They won 48-18.
Yeah.
So that's something, just something to say. I also want to give a shout out to Barbecue Chicken. They dropped 52 points versus Air Force One. Kevin Clearis, 93 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then Xavier Couture, 78 yards, 3 touchdowns. So they take care of business there,
Mm-hmm.
and they get into they get into their groove with being 6-3, playing beer belly beret
Okay.
beer belly for their last brigade for their last game of the season. So I just want to give a shout out to those two teams.
Yeah, rightfully so, man. Rightfully so. Listen, like you said, they're handling their business, and that's what they need to do, especially at this point of the season, right? Like you got to handle your business and make sure everything is on the up and up, and you don't have to worry about what other teams are doing. Just take care of what you got to take care of, and you see the results right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, looking at the playoff standings right now, right? So we have Flag Fools 2.0. So they're on the outside looking in, right? But they have 2 games remaining. They're in action this Saturday against Prodigy, and then the coming Monday, the 31st, against the B Ballers. I'm just looking at it right now, right? Again, Flag Fools 2.0. So right now they have 2 points. They have a chance to get into the playoffs if they can win those 2 games, but then they're going to need a little help too. They're going to need either the Nomads to lose out or Prodigy to lose. And again, they're playing Prodigy, so that's a big thing for them, right? So if even if even if Flag Fools doesn't win both of those games, if they can knock off Prodigy, that's going to be big because then they'll have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So you have Flag Fools going from 22nd to 20th, and Prodigy dropping from 20th to either 21st or 22nd. So that's going to be a big game between Flag Fools and Prodigy coming up. I believe, just double checking that one, that will be this Saturday at Broussard.
Mm-hmm. Something also to say. So we had a situation between Big Fat Bats versus Bruins. So where's Bruins? Bruins is 7-1, so it doesn't really affect them. So Big Fat Bats played Bruins January 25th. Yeah, sorry, January 25th. They played each other.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, so they played each other January 25th. The score was 31-27 for Bruins. They were going for two to make it a 6 point game. Unfortunately, we had a situation with the field. The game was kind of going past time, and they were pretty much flickering the lights, and they kind of said the game has to end. So the game ended. They were supposed to take a retake over for the last. There was also, I think there was 53. Yeah, so 53 seconds left in the game after they scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to take a retake on the last basically minute of the game. So the convert for two and the last 53 seconds. So right now the issue is I kind of talked to Ben about it, and he was telling me to kind of just upload the game, but I just realized it kind of puts Big Bats in this really bad situation if for some reason the game ends with Bruins winning, because if the Big Bats could get that win, I'm just gonna
Yeah, that would put them 4 points. They'd be in that 20 range.
yeah. So they have one. They have two more games. So
Yeah.
if they get that win, they go 2-7 and they play Stoics, whatever. Sorry, which is it's a hard game. But I mean, the Big Fat Bats. The fact that you guys are 1-7 right now, it's kind of unfortunate. Like, to be honest with you, but if you guys could go 3-7, um, 3-7, you guys passed Nomads, you guys passed Prodigy. Those are two teams that are 2-5. Even though you guys have a lot of point against, you guys still have a chance to make playoffs. So I'm gonna have to message Ben and kind of tell him that regarding the situation for them, so they don't
Right.
argue about the situation. But that's also something to kind of just to look at.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Listen, I mean, you're right because doing the math, they still have 2 games remaining. They still have a mathematical chance of getting into the postseason. So obviously, they're gonna have to rectify what happened, unfortunately, to those guys at that field. I mean, it's a crappy way to not finish a game, basically. So hopefully that'll be resolved quickly before everything is all said and done in terms of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
One team I'm looking at here is sort of Southsiders. Right? Southsiders, right? I believe they're last in the division. Just double checking here. With a 1-8 record. Yeah, so they're last. They only have 2 points. So the playoffs, I mean, are pretty much a pipe dream. They can't make it officially. They can't make it. But I do want to tip my hat to these guys. They're trying their hardest. Their last 4 games, and this is how you know football is such a tight game, and literally, like in the movie any given Sunday, like it's that inch in front of you that makes a difference. a bounce here, a bounce there, play here, play there, right? Looking at the last four losses in a row for the Southsiders, those four losses, they have more than that in a row, but just for this argument's sake, they lost by 2 to the Big Fat Bats last Saturday. Before that, they lost by 1 to Blue Chips. The week before that, they lost by 1 to the Junkyard Dogs, and before that, they lost
6.
by 6 to the B Ballers.
Hmm.
So I'm doing that quick math right here. That is exactly 10 points. They lost 4 games by a combined 10 points. That's definitely not a reason to tear it down. 1-9 is not 1-8. I should say. Pardon me. It's not the record you want. They have a chance to finish 2-9 to take on the Super Daddies next Thursday at Stady Bear. Pardon me, 2 Thursdays from now. Pardon me, at Stady Bear. But that shows you like it's just literally one player there. So I mean, listen, Southsiders is not the end of the season that they wanted to have, but
Yeah.
they're playing better football, and hopefully they can carry it over now to the spring season if they decide to sign up for the spring season. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
spring season registration is still open, so make sure to go on to flyplusfootball.com to get your team in there, whether you want to get a whole team in there or you're individual free agent. Flyplusfootball.com, spring registration. Sign up quickly because the spots are filling up fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's that on to say. I think that's pretty much it for Division 3. Um, oh yeah, and I was also just curious. Gonna also looking at the last teams to make that push, but I guess we'll kind of have to see what's it gonna look like moving on to the next week to see who could win
Yeah.
towards flag fools and big bats if they can make that last push to kind of get in, and we'll see from there. So we'll go Division 2. So Division 2, yeah. So Division 2, KGP. Let's kind of talk about them a bit. So pretty much all eyes are on KGP right now. We talked about it before. They're the one team that only played 4 games so far in the season. They've played in their 2 games. They played Infantry. They lost against Infantry 35-24, and then they played Diamond Bougie where they lost 44-39, which they could have had that game versus Dime. They just had a couple more mistakes than Dime had. So right now they're 1-5. They have 4 games left. They play Party Ballers tonight. If they lose versus Party Ballers, they go 1-6 with 3 games left. Their last 3 games is No Regard, Vultures, and and Kush. So No Regards, Vultures, and Kush. So technically, them losing tonight doesn't mean they're out of playoffs yet. It just basically means they have to win the next 3 games, and Vultures has to be one of them because they'll get the tie break on Vultures. Then they have to hope that there's not a tie-way 3-way because then they'll lose against points against. Not sure, depending on their 4 games left, because Vultures has allowed 375 points. So it's still a very sticky situation for KGP. Even if they lose tonight, they're still not out. They still have chances to make playoffs. So that's a little bit about them. Something also to say, Vultures versus EZW, a complete shootout.
Yeah.
I never witnessed before. Actually, no, that's a lie. Actually, I know. I've never witnessed a full game where every single catch you saw was a touchdown. I kept that.
Yeah.
And I was laughing at the refs, right? Because the refs are running back and forth, and I'm just chilling on my chair, kind of relaxing. I've never seen refs just keep running 40 yards down the street, down the field, 40 yards down the other way. Refs like, wait, are someone going to do a stop? It was hooks. It was hooks going for touchdowns. It was 40-yard bombs going for touchdowns. The game ended 67-63, where both quarterbacks threw for over 400 yards. Crazy game. No stops. It came down to converts. Whoever get the most converts kind of won the game. And I think EZW got the win.
Yeah, 67-63.
Yeah. So crazy game for both teams. Crazy stats on both ends. It was something I was kind of watching. I was kind of wondering. I'm like, at this point, you guys should just do a convert game because it seems like no one wants to make a tackle. Um, so that's crazy to say. Dirty Birds. I'll go back to the. I'll change topics here really fast. Dirty Birds end up taking their loss versus Idaho Uda Pimps.
Yep.
So they get a nice
Nice.
win versus Dirty Birds. They give Dirty Birds 2 losses so far this season.
Yep.
So hopefully Dirty Birds they have one more game left. Hopefully they can win that last game and kind of secure the first seed. Uh, they do play Infantry. They play us to a point where I think if we beat Dirty Birds, I think we'll end up finishing second with a three-way tie because points against depends on how many points.
Yeah.
It depends on the game and how many points are scored. But that's going to be a very interesting game. That's going to be coming up in a couple weeks. But all eyes right now are going to be on all eyes for Division Two is on KGP because everyone's kind of wondering what's going on with them. If they lose versus Party Ballers, I mean, their chances are slimmer. But if they beat Party Ballers, it comes to a point where they put a target on Vultures and they put a target on Party Ballers' back. So,
Well, that's it. Exactly. I mean, it's again the whole game's in hand, right? They have 2 games on hand on Party Ballers, 1 game in hand on the Vultures, right? So right now, again, that late start and then having like a month and a half off during the season, now it's coming back in KGP's favor, right? So 1 game. So again, the shootout you talked about again, both teams, Easy W and Vultures combining for 130 points. I think it's the highest scoring game in FPF, no matter what division the entire season. So props to those teams. I had a chance actually Monday night quickly to watch the Silent Ticklers against Fins Up. That game went down to the wire. Silent Ticklers got a 47-46 W. Now without a little bit of controversy. Last play of the game, Jordan Panetta hit Adam Rosen for a 3-yard TD. Ben was scorekeeping that game. It was going back and forth. I was on the field next to it. Literally, Panetta jumped in the air to throw a pass to Joey Natero, the rusher. He tried to deflag him. So he tried to deflag him before he jumped. Panetta jumps up, and then Natero kind of readjusts his hand to pull the flag off. He pulls it out. Now the referee, Buddy Rayhan, he says the quarterback's arm is going forward. The ball was already out of his hands. Rosen catches it for the touchdown, the last play of the game. The defense up sideline, they erupted. They were furious. They all thought it was a horrible call, but they thought that that Rosen that Panetta got sacked. I don't know. It was like a split-second play again. The referees they're human, right? I mean, it's not machines. It's not Major League Baseball there. So anyway, so they end up giving up the touchdown to Rosen, and then I'm just trying to see. I can't remember if there was an extra point. I'm looking at the play-by-play quickly right now. So that game ends. Yeah. So that tied it up and sent it to the last play of the game, which was an extra point. So then the Silent Ticklers end up getting the extra point. I believe that was Rosen as well who caught the extra point. Either Rosen or Mancini. I can't remember who it was. But anyways, 1 point win for the Silent Ticklers. Again, a lot of controversy surrounding that game, but again, the win's a win, and it sucks when you have those plays where it's like I think the sack was made. Not really sure because Ty always goes to the quarterback, and unfortunately that worked against Fins Up on Monday night.
Yeah. Well, as we said, sometimes you don't the point. Sometimes don't leave it to that point. Try to make sure you don't put the ref in that situation and just play better. Because again, it's part of the game. It happens everywhere. Refs can't be perfect, and it sometimes it is what it is. And the best you can do is guys, it's situation sucks, but the fact that we let them score 47 points, or that you go the other way, 46 points, it's too much points for them to score. As in general, so. Yeah. It's just something else to look at. Sometimes you have to look at the other side.
No, definitely. Don't leave the game up in the hands of the refs, like you said, 100%. Let's hop over to Div 1.
So I have a lot on. I have a bit on Div 1 as well. Also, basically, so the big situation in Div 1, right? So everyone was kind of looking at Run It Twice and Blessed to see who's going to get that last playoff spot. All Stars kind of started to get into the conversation of are they going to make playoffs and they're not going to make playoffs. They take care of business. They win 54-28 versus Bless. They kind of close their dreams a bit more for them not to make playoffs. Bless has a huge game versus All-Stars next week to kind of see if they're actually going to have a chance to make playoffs. If Run It Twice plays tonight versus Royal Lemune, they end up winning tonight. Bless playoffs are completely done. But if they end up not winning, Bless still has a chance. So that's also something kind of to look at. But all eyes again on Bless and Run It Twice to kind of see who's going to get that last playoff spot. a little recap on yesterday. Party Crashers played Braves
Yep.
with a quarterback not named Mayer. You had JD that filled in that game. Party Crashers took care of business. They won 24-6. So really kind of defensive game. I was kind of watching it. Actually, I had a co-ed game before, and I kind of stayed to watch that game a bit. Braves just kind of they didn't really have much offense. They had nothing really going. JD threw a couple picks here and there. He wasn't as comfortable as he should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of it was a defensive game. Frederick also kind of threw some picks as well too. But Party Crashers took advantage of the non-quarterback situation and they took care of business. And yeah, so that's kind of what's up for Division 1 right now. As we said, Run It Twice plays tonight versus Royal. Royal. They play Royal tonight, so we're gonna kind of have to wait to see who wins that game. If Run It Twice does win that game, they're officially in, and Bless is officially out. And if they do lose that game, Bless has a second chance to try to win their game versus All Stars. But then Run It Twice has a second chance to play All Stars again as well. So a lot of it's going to be either on if Run It Twice loses tonight, a lot of it's going to be on All Stars as well to see exactly what happens in this division.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is again, obviously you talk about Blessed. Can they get into that last playoff spot? And the Braves again with that loss 24-6, right? You talked about the Party Crashers. I remember Joe Mahio, he missed the game against you guys, against Running Twice earlier in the season back in February. He knocked you guys off 19-8. But against the Party Crash, I mean, Guillaume Bellon played quarterback, so I guess he's a better quarterback than JD Chevalier. Just a little bit surprising that the Braves, yeah, Mahio is Mahio. It is what it is, right? Some people would say he's the best quarterback in FPF. Just surprised that they only put up 6 points. Again, because they still have a lot of weapons. I thought they scored maybe another touchdown or two. But hey, credit to the Party Crashers. They took advantage. They got the W.
And, solid. They have a solid defense though. So they did JD. Just, as I said, 5 interceptions. He was just kind of throwing the ball up, and it wasn't working out. Also, something to say: Royal actually can still finish in the second seed. For playoffs for Division 1, number 1 seed and 2 seed do get buys, so that's also something to look at. Braves is pretty much officially Braves is officially locked up one of the 2 seeds right now.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Braves is officially locked up the number 1 seed.
Yeah, they're first. Yeah, they're first.
So now it's between Party Crashers and Royal to see kind of who locks up the next second seed to get that buy. That's sometimes much needed because sometimes you never know. You never want to. It's Division 1, right? Anything can happen. A lot of these teams and rosters have big talent. So if you get a free pass going to the next round, it's something that you'll never not take.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly. All right, let's go to women's 2.
Women's 2. Oh, sorry, no, let's go co-ed. It's faster.
Oh, okay.
Co-ed, co-ed 3.
All right.
So co-ed 3, Flamingos beat Hot Wings 38-20. Balls and TD, those are also 2 big teams. Balls and TD, and Balls and TD play Dream Killers. Balls and TD wins 42-36.
Yeah.
So that was kind of 2 high teams playing for each other to kind of just establish who's the better team. Dream Killers finished the season 7-3, and Balls and TD is 7-1. So they kind of are still pushing to see how much further they can get into a playoff seeding. Right. Flamingos beat Hot Wings 38-20. So that doesn't help Hot Wings' chances to make that playoff push. For Flamingos, it kind of separates them a bit into the lower pack. It kind of gets them that 10 points and closer into the seedings, into the higher seedings for when playoffs do start. Also, something to look for: Ghosts get a big win, so they're 2-7 right now. They hold the 12th seed, and anything takes care of business versus tight ends. They win 47-27, and they hold their number 1 seeding spot still.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what I have. I don't know what else. If you have anything else, I have a couple of things to say, but I'll let you.
I score kept that game. Anything against tight ends, Money and Saint Laurent. I gotta say, Felix Derry Bernard, phenomenal quarterback. This guy, he's long. He could run. He had more TD passes than incompletions, right? He went 10-15 for 6 touchdown passes. He has a big arm. He can make all the throws. He's accurate too when he's on the run, which is he's going to be lethal. It's going to be a good one, I think. One of my favorite players on that team, I hadn't seen her before, Chelsea Britton. This girl must be maybe maybe 5'3" at the most. She's making plays on like both sides of the ball. She's tough as nails. There was a player from tight ends who was kind of running his mouth a little bit. There was kind of a play where a guy was running and he got knocked over. He kind of knocked over someone at the same time. The flag went against the offensive player. Not fully sure if I agree with that call. But then somebody from tight ends was just running their mouth, and the girl, I heard what she was saying under her breath. She's like, "Yeah, I just want to play ball." Like, she's like, "You got to stop talking." And she went out and started making some more plays, and like, I take her on my team any day of the week. Chelsea Britton, shout out to you, tough as nails. She's fast too, and I was watching her run routes, and like her route running is like superb, and she has great hands. So props to her. And again, her team is dangerous. Her team is dangerous. Anything.
Yeah, you love to see it. I guess that's the reason why they're 9-0 and they're kind of having the season they're having.
Yeah, they should be in co-ed too at the very least.
Something to also look at. 2 games to kind of look at for this coming week: Hot Wings versus Pick Artists and Gold Diggers versus Vultures.
Yeah.
Pig Artists not as much, Vultures not as much, but more Gold Diggers and Hot Wings are both teams that are fighting for that playoff spot. So for them, it's going to be 2 games where it's going to be 2 games to kind of look at to see kind of how the standings are going to end up being. Not that's going to make the standings, but it's 2 games that are going to affect the standings the following week.
Yeah, for sure.
So 2. So I think I talked about it last week. It was one of the game of the weeks. I said Team Rocket versus Daddy Daycare. I think Daycare.
It was Daycare. Yeah.
Team Rocket versus Daycare. I said that's gonna be. I figured that was gonna be a very good game. Ended 19-6, so a defensive game, but I figured that was gonna be a good game. For both teams, it was Team Rocket just came off from a loss too, so I kind of to see how they're going to bounce back, and they bounced back pretty well, allowing only 6 points to a Daycare team that's averaging, I want to say, about 25 points a game. So for them, it's kind of a very defensive stop for them to kind of show what they got. Ball Hard University season is over with a loss versus McNuggies. So Balsa Hard University ends up losing a tough game versus McNuggies, 39-30. So their playoff season is officially over. They finished 9-7-1. If they end up getting that win, they could have been 3-7-1, and that tie would have been pretty good regarding the 2 other teams at the bottom seeds. No pads, no helmets, just balls, and who's going to carry the boats are 3-5. So if they got that win, it could have helped them out a bit, but. Unfortunately, they fall a bit too short, and they make that playoff push spot.
I hear you. I'm looking here. Just tonight, there's one game going on tonight. It's actually in Laval. I'll be scorekeeping that game. It's Block Party against Tonics. So it's a battle of number 12 in Block Party, number 13 in Tonics, right? And this game is huge. Both teams are in the playoffs right now. Again, it's the top 16 teams to make it. Block Party is 12. Tonics is 13. 1 point separates these 2 teams, right? So Block Party has 9 points, Tonics 8. The reason why I'm bringing this up, besides the point that it's a big game, is that the loser of that contest could still get caught. Again, looking at the standings, red zone, 8 points, no pads, no helmets, just balls, 6 points. Who's going to carry the boats? 6 points. But even we talked about Balsa Hard University, their season's done, doesn't matter. Flag Force 1, 4 points. They have 2 games remaining. Flag Force 1, right? So that's dangerous because let's say Flag Force 1, if they win 1 or at least 2, if they win the 2 final games, they're going to get into the playoffs, and they're taking on Crazy Frog, and they're also taking on Red Zone, right? So I mean, not necessarily for Flag Force 1 in terms of the quality of schedule, not the easiest teams, but if they can find a way to pull off 2 upsets, Flag Force 1 will get into the playoffs, and there's a good chance the loser of that Tonics game tonight against Block Party could be on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be very interesting. We said a lot. Everyone's so tight, So that one game that you win, that one game the team loses, it's gonna make a big impact.
Definitely. All right,
so we'll go to division
1.
Yeah, so that's gonna be the last thing that I'm gonna do. I could do. So we'll do this, and then we'll have we'll have to end it. So for Co-Ed 1, crazy things that are happening right now. A little recap, as we said, Dominoes take care of the IG team, so they get a bit closer, one step closer into the getting to the top seed. Fit Squad stays alive. They beat Block Party. Party Mix. They beat Party Mix,
Yeah,
and then now they beat Banana Nice Try. So Fit Squad end up being at the bottom of the pack. They're kind of not even close going into the playoffs. They look like they're having a chance, and then they make a huge win
yeah,
versus Banana Nice Try, playing themselves into 4-5 and giving them a chance to make that playoff push and basically make playoffs.
yeah.
So that's something
It's
great for them. Congratulations to them. I thought they didn't have a chance to even get a chance. I didn't think they had a chance to even make the playoffs here. But right
yeah,
now
exactly.
they're in the seventh seed and they're looking good. I watched them play. They made a defensive stop at the end of the game versus Banana Nice Try against Jeff,
Yeah.
the quarterback. They got a good stop and they end up winning the game. So shout out to them.
Yeah, listen, like you said, they've always been a good team. They're a veteran team, right? They've been through a bunch of wars together, a lot of big games together, right? It's just a matter of just not executing well or not finishing games. And obviously, right now is the time they need to be doing that. And they did exactly that the other night, right? So, yeah, congrats to Fit Squad. Because we talked about for most of the season, they were on the outside looking in. So now they've catapulted themselves all the way, like you said, up to seventh. They're tied for points with a couple of teams, right? So they can finish as high as, I believe, they can finish as high as fifth, right? Being Fit Squad in Co-ed 1 here. So, I mean, we'll have to see
Yeah,
what they can do. They finish off the regular season taking on Hushmasus, actually.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
coming up next Sunday. So that's a big game for both squads.
Yeah, so exactly. So the thing that's crazy about co-ed winner right now, and I'm just gonna say this, and then we can kind of close things off. Everything is close. You have the top 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 teams. Everyone's still
Yeah.
kind of fighting to get in the playoffs. Every week's gonna matter. Every game's gonna matter. Every point's gonna matter. It's literally something it's nice to see just because it's co-ed 1 and it's the most competitive it has been since. So again, I'm in this division. I'm kind of happy that my team kind of pulled away, and I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to worry about losing any games, winning any games.
Yeah.
We're 6-3. We're good. We win next week. We lose next week. We're fine with it. For us, we're kind of chilling. But the fact to be in those situations where we're 4-4, 3-5, like the fact that you're 4-4 and you're kind of saying, guys, we have to win next week or we might be out of playoffs, is kind of crazy to say, or the fact that you're 4-4 and you're not even in playoffs. So that's something kind of it's nice to see. I'm happy I'm not in the I'm not involved that pack, but it's gonna be a very interesting end of the last 2 weeks.
Definitely. Just want to say quickly, big game tonight. Plenty of fish in the merge at Steady Bird at 11 p.m. The merge right now, first place, obviously 7-0. They're looking to complete their path to profession. They have they have Plenty of Fish. They have Banner Nice Try, and they have the Monarchs. Plenty of Fish right now is in they're the sixth seed, right? So let's see if the merge can keep their perfect season alive tonight against Plenty of Fish. That'll be a pretty good matchup, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Two strong
Yeah.
teams. Okay, so you have to go, right? You're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're
Okay.
gonna.
What time is it now? Yeah, 8:15. Okay, so you know what we'll do? So we have women's one and women's two, and we have 5v5. So what we'll do is we'll come back next week and we'll finish that for you guys. We apologize, just short on time, and I know my end personally, I was having some technical difficulties even getting onto this, so it's my fault for this week, for sure. So apologize about that. So we will come back next week for next week's episode with women's two, women's one, and 5v5. We'll give you a little bit of extra attention on those divisions, and then we'll have obviously all the men's divisions and co-ed like we had today, and we'll give you our division two all stars as well next week. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll give Quaysie a couple extra weeks, a couple extra days to cheat and try to figure out who he's gonna have. It's actually, so we're making a little bit of a change. Instead of going from 8 players, we're gonna have 10 for Division Two. And I wanted to put this out to you. I was gonna do it when we did it, but
Yeah, it's cool.
I was wondering maybe we should pick players. Okay, because obviously a lot of guys are playing Div One and Div Two, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe we pick some Div One guys on our Div Two squads, but then we can't pick them for Div One. So
Yeah,
I'm saying, yeah,
yeah, it's something we could talk about because it's kind of weird on who plays what, but
yeah.
it's like, oh, this guy plays one and he plays two, but
was trying to make a list, and there was very few guys that aren't playing
Yeah.
in Div 1. So that's how I was like, all right. So I'm saying, if you pick AJ, for example, or if I pick AJ, then we can't pick him for Div 1 kind of thing. So I
Yeah,
think that makes it
exactly.
even more challenging and maybe a bit more fun. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
something like that.
Okay. Anyways,
Okay.
thank you guys for tuning in. It's been the latest episode of the Flag Plus Football First and Goal podcast. Pardon me. He's Brent on Quaysie again. We'll be back next week. Thank you to Omar, who's sitting in today for Ali Reza, sitting in doing his doing his things as producer of the show, being in our ear, keeping us on track. So thank you, Omar, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Put the place up.